Prenger. I lead the InfoTrust partnerships team and excited to be a part of this third series of Women in Analytics, announcing the amazing women that work in this field or have worked in this field, and excited to have all of you today. You probably noticed I just jumped away because I got 3 kids running upstairs. I have a dog barking, of course, perfect timing. So if you see me going on mute and like yelling, that's probably why. But again, thank you everyone. First and foremost, thank you Maddie from the InfoTrust team for joining us today. And thank you Kelly from Nationwide. We are thrilled to have you. We have a great audience joining today, so excited to get started. So with that, let me share a little bit more about why we kind of started this and why it's important to us. So InfoTrust, we're an end-to-end analytics consultancy. So we really help our partners advance the way they use analytics to drive their maturity, and really help upskill their teams. Myself being in partnerships, I really get to work with a lot of women that are amazing in their roles, amazing in their jobs. And I have 2 daughters myself. So I really started to get the passion around how do we give more of a forum for amazing women in this space, who are thinking about being in this space, who have been in this space, or just any industry for that matter, right? We work in analytics, but I think it's important to make sure that my daughters, as they grow up, they have an opportunity to do whatever they want and excel in it and be a leader in it. So thank you, Kelly, for, I've had the opportunity to work with Kelly, but Kelly's been amazing. One of the people that I thought of, I'm like, I would love to have her in one of these sessions. So thank you, Kelly, for joining. And Maddie is one of our amazing consultants at InfoTrust. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go off video because this is not about Brad, but I was just excited to kind of bring a little bit of background to this. We're going to continue to do this series, so please follow along. We're going to have 4th, 5th, 6th. Plan is to do multiple ones of these. If you know any amazing women in analytics or that you work with, please have them reach out to us. We love to host them, for them to be a part of this, because from the first 2 sessions, just amazing learnings, experiences, overcoming challenges. And I'm excited to kind of share more experiences today. So with that, Maddie, I'm going to pass it over to you and let's get started. But thank you everyone again.
Thanks, Brad. So hi, I'm Maddie Cantrell. I've been working at InfoTrust for a little over a year, but I've been working in this field of analytics and specifically like web analytics for about 7 years. And I absolutely love it. When I'm not, helping clients and figure out how to decipher data and pull it apart, I am either on stage doing improv, or sometimes I like to make crafts. So that's kind of my fun things that I like to do with myself. I think it's important to have a balance. But we're here mostly for our amazing guest, Kelly Marlow. So Kelly is an associate vice president of digital workplace technology at Nationwide, which is a Fortune 500 company based in Columbus, Ohio. So another Ohioan, woo, woo. In her current role, Kelly leads a team that focuses on improving digital experiences for nearly 30,000 associates through innovative technology and automation. And she's held multiple roles, including financial advisor, compliance officer, marketing technologist, and data analytics and analytics technology leader at Nationwide and other Fortune 500 companies like Bank of America, Raymond James, and MetLife. Kelly holds a Bachelor of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences with a minor in marketing from California State University. So she's pretty swell. So I think we should start off first with kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, Kelly. I mean, I just gave you like a nice little summary, but in your own words.
Thank you. Actually, it's really interesting to have somebody else read to you what it is that your experience is. And I guess I'm overwhelmed with how much stuff I've done. But I will just say that I have had a varying background in many industries through financial services, insurance. I would say, the whole value chain between sales, service, legal, technology, marketing, and all of those aspects of business I've actually been a part of. And it's been a really windy road, me going through and taking on different varying roles within each of those organizations. I will say that the thing that I find in common between all of these functions that I've played at these various companies, though, is data and analytics. And I will say I learned this early on, unknowingly. When I was in sales, was one of my first jobs out of college or during college. I was in sales, and then I went into becoming a financial advisor out of college. And I will just say that you really quickly learn the importance of data. And what I found myself doing oftentimes was scrounging up my own data and trying to figure out how I was going to use that data to make sales. And ultimately, that's what ended up kind of leading me to the path that I finally ended up in a leadership role within the technology organization. Is because I've understood firsthand the importance of having data at your fingertips, usable data that helps you prioritize your time and ultimately lead to making sales. And so I was able to do that in my last role. And then even now when I'm transitioning, I recently took on a new role at Nationwide, which is really fun. It's a really fun role, but it was not at all kind of in the data and analytics space necessarily. But what's cool about it is that I'm already finding ways to figure out how to best use my data and automate and, measure and all that good stuff. And I think that's, it's an undercurrent in every function I've ever played.
Right, because we live in such a space now where data is everywhere, and
Yep,
I think what if you can make data driven decisions, why wouldn't you?
I agree.
And I think anybody can benefit from some fun numbers. So it's interesting that you said that you started off kind of as a financial advisor. I was an intern at a Raymond James in Tennessee, so that was kind of fun to hear. But like, how did you? So how did you kind of step into that space? You said you initially started kind of just to kind of get information on clients, but what was your introduction?
Well, in college, didn't know what I was going to do, like most college students, right? And so I found myself getting into this program. It was the Family and Consumer Sciences at California State University, and I will just say that I was really attracted to the financial services space, mostly because I loved sales. Like I mentioned, I did that in college, and I knew that this was kind of a thing that I could get into that was both sales driven, but also I could turn into a career. So that's how I ended up in it. And through that, like I said, just kind of built a foundation. The thing that I love most, and if this was any career advice I was giving to anybody in college, it would be um, take on a sales job. Like even if it's just for a short period of time and it's something that you may end up hating, and that's okay because you don't have to do it forever. But the cool thing about it is that it really, really drives home the importance of goal setting. And I would also say prioritization of your time and resources and just in general, that skill set is really important, especially when you have, sales goals to meet. Um, and then, like I said, the use of data and knowing and understanding what this data can do for you when you're motivated by it turning into sales and ultimately your paycheck, it really does help to drive home, how do you slice and dice the data to best understand what's my next best action, and again, that helps to drive out that prioritization. So I think every person should have a sales role at some point in their career.
Oh yes, oh yes. I think it's also important because it helps you kind of figure out how to talk to people and how to
Oh yeah,
present yourself in front of people. I had that from my theater experience, but that's such a huge piece, I think, as a woman in this space is being able to make space for yourself to speak. Um,
that's
yeah.
that's so important. I didn't think about that too, but I will say, I haven't always naturally been much of a speaker or presenter. Um, growing up, even in school, I was usually the last person to raise my hand. My face would turn beet red. I have like see-through skin, if you can't tell. Like my face would turn beet red. I'd get really embarrassed, and I knew the answer, but I still really always hesitated to kind of put myself out there. But through those early, I would say, formidable roles that I held, being in sales, you do have to put yourself out there and realize that there's just some risk to it and that it's not actually going to kill you. And I think that is really important, especially as a woman, to be able to feel like you can put your voice out there and it's okay, and you have as much to say as anyone else does. I think it also helps build the power of influence. Um, I would say I have used that skill in every single role that I've ever been in. You really have to figure out how do you speak to people, build up that what's in it for them in everything that you do. And anytime you're trying to drive a particular, initiative or program, you're trying to get funding for something, or you're trying to make a sale, you have to figure out how to best position it to the listener, to the decision maker, or the buyer, to influence their decision. And so I think that's another really important skill that you can learn through some of those early jobs.
Oh, absolutely. That power of influence has definitely helped me quite a lot. I think that the empathy, the empathy is always really important in sales or in analytics, in any role. I think that that's one of the things that I personally feel that women bring to the table that's just extra special. So when you were first starting out in analytics, what was kind of some of your go-to resources? Like where did you go to get more insights and better understand what was going, like how to do your job better?
Another thing key is build relationships. Whatever organization you're in, whatever function you're playing, build relationships. And I'm not talking about like the superficial, I want to network with you kind of relationships. Like, find something in common with them, commiserate with somebody, like build a common interest, figure out, what their skills are or what their interests are, whatever that is. Like, build connections with humans. That empathy piece you just mentioned is so important. I will say that I knew nothing about analytics, literally nothing, when I first started as a technology leader in the advanced analytics space. And I will tell you that the only reason why I was really successful in that space is because I could lean on people who I'd already built strong relationships with to say, hey, explain this to me again. Like, I need you to one more time run that by me. And I could pick it up and I could understand it. And again, knowing the value of what we're doing, especially within that advanced analytics space, to our business, and how do we best enable our data scientists, for example, to have the tools that they need in order to do their jobs, and build environments that allow us to quickly deploy advanced analytic models, or in the case of web analytics, like what is our marketing organization going to do with that data? That helps you to start to ask the questions, lean on people, and learn really what it is and why it is that we're pulling all this data together, and what questions we're trying to get answered, and what insights are we trying to get out of it. So two things, I guess: build relationships with really smart people and two, ask a lot of questions and know and understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ask a ton of questions. That's definitely something that, ask yourself questions, ask the internet questions, ask friends questions.
Google's my friend. Yes.
Yeah, because that's how because I taught myself analytics, so it's similar to you, right? So I read a lot of blogs. I read a lot of like Simo Ahava and
Yeah.
Occam's Razor and all those. Um, do you have any suggestions for like how to build confidence for people within the space, like when they're young and it's their first career and or maybe a career change?
Yeah. I will say confidence is definitely something that comes with, trusting yourself, trusting that even if you don't know the right answer, first of all, no one actually thinks you know all the right answers, like especially out of the gate. Like, no one actually thinks that you are the, guru coming out of college, in whatever field you're in. Um, know that no one is actually depending on you for that level of expertise, when you're early on in your career, and be okay with it. Trust that you're going to learn along the way. And you know the most important thing, I think, in what really truly builds confidence is failing and learning from the failure, and failing again and learning from another failure. I think as long as you are finding yourself perpetually learning from the mistakes that you or people around you are making, and you're willing to pivot and adjust and things like that, I think you'll start to realize that you can do just about anything, because you really are just kind of learning all along the way. I think when you get that learning mindset, that just perpetual, continuous learner behavior, I think you end up realizing that your confidence is just coming in your ability to figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That I have to remind myself of that on a daily basis, because I think I feel like I have to know all things. But I still learn new things every single day. And so I have to kind of keep reminding myself that like I have other team members that can help me. Like I can learn things. Like I'm here to be a conduit, not necessarily like a basin. Like I don't have to hold all the things. I can just
Yeah.
transfer things.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of like one of your failures, like that you would want to share, of like how you can fail up, you know?
Yeah. Oh boy. Like where do I start? I just think it's one of these things that I'll give you an example. An experience I had that I consider to be maybe a failure, but in reality, I think is probably one of the best experiences I've ever lived through. I did a job change. I think it was probably about, call it 6 years ago, and actually left the company. I was at Nationwide, left the company to go for another role, and it was this glorious role. It was going to be this world traveler and leading this global organization, and it was really cool. And so I left a company that I really enjoyed working for, but for this new opportunity, actually moved the family to a new city, and we were kind of acclimating ourselves. All that to say, I ended up finding myself not loving the job, and ultimately not even really loving where we moved to. And I started to somewhat beat myself up over it. Like I was like, gosh, I just made this huge mistake. I made this big change for my family. This isn't like a little mistake. This is like a big mistake. And then what I realized was I figured out what I don't like to do. I didn't want to be a world traveler, and I didn't want to work 24/7 for some company that I was just, it did not feel great. So I ended up finding another role back at Nationwide. I bleed blue, by the way. I love Nationwide. And I will say, I look back at that time where I genuinely was very regretful for what I did. In realizing that I am 100 times happier now than before I left Nationwide, and I am only that much more satisfied with where I am today because I went through that experience. So I see that as, again, just one of those learning opportunities that if you didn't experience it, I might still have this desire or sense of like, what if or whatever. Um, I don't have that now. I am completely satisfied with where we are. I have no intention of leaving, and I feel like that was only due to that big mistake.
Right. Like, and yeah, if you take the shot, you take 100%, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
You got it.
Wayne Gretzky or Michael Scott, depending on who you ask. Awesome. Sorry, that's an Office reference. So, I mean, I'm also just curious, like, sorry. I'm also just curious about, like, do you have any examples of how you overcame adversity? I know that we just talked about, like, a failure of moving to a different space, but as women in analytics, we oftentimes have moments where there are awkward moments with people in the field. And like, have you had any of those that you would want to share?
Yes, I have. And I will just tell you, I have a philosophy about this. And this is something I think I learned early on. I genuinely believe that if you can turn obstacles, like what I'm about to describe, but obstacles or people who might doubt your abilities or whatever, turn that into fuel to drive you towards success, I think you will overshoot the moon. Like you can do anything if you use that as fuel. So really, I'm like, bring it. Like, tell me I can't do something. Please just tell me I can't do something, because it will just drive me. I can think of several instances of where I'll give you, I was moving into my last role, and I went from, and I mentioned this earlier, I was mostly in a business function within my company, and I was moving into this. I wanted this new role, which was a leader within technology, and specifically in advanced analytics space, where not only are females somewhat still a minority in technology leadership, but also too in the advanced analytics space, where I just genuinely didn't have a ton of experience. I knew data, but I hadn't had a lot of experience in that space. I was told by many male leaders that I just was not technical enough to really even go for the role. I wasn't technical enough, and there was no way I was going to be able to beat out the competition, because the people with whom for this role that I was competing for, they know the space. They've been experts in it. I went forward anyway because this was the role I wanted, and I got it. And I got it not because I was an expert in the space, but I got it because I showed the leaders and the business partners and those of who, the people I was going to be working with, that I could add value with my experience that I'd been both in that business organization as well as my technical acumen, that I could add value immediately. And I did. And it was the same people that were doubting me that I ended up being peers with, that I have since now kind of been able to, I guess, so to speak, prove myself very quickly that I was in fact technical enough to take on this role. So I would say, I have several instances I can think back of when people told me, no way. I had someone recently tell me, I had a mentor, in fact, tell me that there was no way I'm going to be able to reach my goal of becoming an executive at Nationwide in the short period of time that I had hoped to. And now we're peers. So, I mean, it's it's like one of those things that I'm just like, yeah, tell me I can't do it.
Oh yeah. Like you can't always help what happens to you, but you can help how you react to it. That's kind of
100%.
something that, like, I always try to live by. So yeah, I love it when people are like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, watch me. I love that. Especially because I do think that there's so much, like, I immediately am thinking of how people think that you need to be super, super technical to be in this space. Like, there's still so many soft skills that are missing and lacking. And there's still so much lack of leadership within the technology space, because everyone is so focused on knowing all the tiny little micro things. So I feel like there's so much opportunity there for people who are coming in, especially women who are coming in, that can help translate these technical things into this other space. That's actually why I got my degree. Business analytics is my degree. And the reason why I chose that was because it was about telling stories about business. So I was using data but telling stories. And obviously from my theater background, I love telling stories. So I think it's really important to be able to translate that. And there's so many people with that technical background that can't. And I think it's that blend that's so important.
Yeah, and I love that you just said that you can tell stories through data. There's nothing more powerful than using data to tell your story. One wise executive that I'll forever remember, she's now passed. She was just a role model for all women at Nationwide. Passed just last year, but I will tell you that her motto and what she taught us, all of us women, was know your data. When you walk into a room, no matter who's in it, you could be surrounded by the most intelligent people. If you know your data, no one can touch you. So I think that's something to live by.
I love that. Looks like Brad's back.
I don't want it to stop. I mean, every single one of these I listen in on. I think about my 5-year-old and 8-year-old girls, and even my 8-year-old who's a second grader. Like, I already see some of the things that you're talking about. I hear her talking about, like, things aren't fair. I hear her talking about this kid's better at me in, soccer practice. And I think there's so many things that I just take out of this. So it's, you know, even if the sales role, Kelly, as you mentioned, like everybody should get a sales role, like selling lemonade in the driveway, you know, learning how to talk to people. And this past summer, my 8-year-old and our neighbors were selling bracelets. So I just think there's so many things that, regardless of age, whether you're in high school, college, an exec, or my daughters, right? At that age, I think there's so many things that I'm learning from these series, and to see both of you like so successful in your careers is awesome. So again, thank you both. This has been awesome. I wrote down some notes, as I always do, to recap. There's also some good chatter for you, Maddie and Kelly, that people engaging, some similar experiences. So make sure you check that out. But I had a couple recap to summarize this. So everyone should get a sales role, which I love because I'm technically in sales, which is good. Build relationships, not networking. So I thought that was a really cool way to think about it, because they tell you in college all the time, like network, network, network. It's a very big difference to network with someone and actually understand them like on a personal level, and not just like, hey, you know, hope someday you can give me a job, so I'm going to like link in with you and, you know, say hi. Ask a lot of questions, failing and learning, take risks. Love the story about you moved the whole family, you know, you were questioning yourself and you ended up finding out what you don't like and found an even better role where you're happy now and like, you know, bleeding blue, which is awesome. So, and then use doubt to take fuel to do anything. So really good stuff. One final question, I think, for the group, because I'm sure the audience like me would love to learn more. How can people reach you? You know, if they want to talk more about their own challenges or specific areas, what's the best way to reach you to?
Definitely reach out to me via LinkedIn. Like, I check my messages. I actually love like reading articles and doing that kind of scrolling on LinkedIn. So if you ping me on LinkedIn, I definitely will respond. I think this is a great conversation, and I would love to hear other women's stories. I can see the chatter, and I agree with so much of what's being said. I've experienced similar things. So appreciate it. Please reach out.
Absolutely. Same here. LinkedIn is the best place to find me. And I absolutely, yeah, all the chatter is fantastic. It's very validating to like be able to share these experiences with each other.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I can't wait to take this whole series and share it with my daughters, and, you know, they're going to be learning from all of these. And I hope everybody watching today is sharing it with their friends or their women in the space. And, you know, really that's the whole purpose of this, is how do we empower, get more women in this space, in this field? You know, frankly, it doesn't matter what the industry, right? How do we get more leadership positions? How do we drive this and create a forum for people to come together and learn from fantastic folks like yourselves? So thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Kelly. Really appreciate the time, especially in January, especially in a global pandemic. But thank you for all of our attendees. Again, reach out to Maddie, Kelly via LinkedIn if you want to continue this chat, and look out for our next Women in the Analytics series. So thank you both, and take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.